All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Keith Wallace. I'm the founder and director of the Wine School of Philadelphia. As some of you may know, I have a very long career in both the wine trade and academia. And I personally believe, I truly believe that the privatization of both retail and wholesale operations of the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board must be privatized. It is the best thing for all people in Pennsylvania. Everyone will benefit from this. And it's time to leave prohibition and enter the 21st century. Now, I am very proud, I am very thankful to have Majority Leader Turzai here today, along with former PLCB Chairman Jonathan Newman. I appreciate and recommend their great work in leading the movement to privatization. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.
Oh, Keith, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You know, it's exciting to be here at the wine school and with Keith Wallace. Keith is a full-time wine guru and has a national and regional wine scene. It's earned him a reputation for being one of the leading experts on quality wine and how to know it. He's best known for finding this beautiful school that we're at today and creating the Philly Uncorked show and being the wine columnist for Philadelphia Style magazine. Keith, thank you for letting us hold this venue here today. Thank you, sir. I'm certainly a big proponent of privatizing the sale of wine and spirits here in Pennsylvania. And our goal is to improve the buying experience for consumers, a better selection, more reasonable price, and more convenience. But we also want to enhance the financial value to the Commonwealth. But finally, we intend to do it while we strengthen public safety through education, enforcement, and regulations. We honestly believe that it's a conflict of interest for Pennsylvania to be in the business of being both the agency that sells wine and spirits and the one that's supposed to be doing the policing and the educating and the regulating. Let's stick to that role. Only 2 states in the entire country have a complete monopoly of wholesale and retail, and that's Pennsylvania and Utah. And as Keith said, we think it's time to move into the 21st century. Before I introduce the centerpiece of the press event today, my good friend Jonathan Newman, I did want to introduce some of my colleagues who are here today. Thomas Killian from Delaware County, and Tom will be doing cleanup here at this press event. Kurt Schroeder from Chester County, Jerry Knowles from Schuylkill County, and Nick Miccarelli from Delaware County. Both Nick and Tom are members of the Liquor Committee that will be holding hearings for the rest of this summer under John Taylor's guidance, and John is from the city of Philadelphia and will be chairing those hearings. At this time, I have the distinct pleasure and honor of introducing our treasured guest and supporter, Jonathan Newman. He has served as chairman of the PLCB, the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, until January 2007. And I must say, across the board in Harrisburg, on both sides of the aisle, everybody recognized that Jonathan really is the best LCB chairman we've ever had, and is just an outstanding leader on many fronts. He's a lifelong resident of Pennsylvania as well, born and lived in Philadelphia for the first part of his life, and then went to Montgomery County. After graduating from Bowdoin College, came home and graduated from just down the street, the University of Pennsylvania Law School. And he had a great tenure with the Liquor Control Board and really knows the system inside and out. And here he is today supporting privatization and many of the significant movement towards getting this done this session with respect to House Bill 11. Jonathan, did return to the private sector, and he founded Newman Wine and Spirits, which is a national company. It's not limited to just Pennsylvania. It's a national company for making sure that people can get the wine and spirits that they want. And he'll tell you a little bit about that. He received many national awards over the past 10 years with respect to his service and his knowledge. He was the Wine Enthusiast Magazine Man of the Year. He was the American Wine Society Award of Merit. He had the highest honor from the Guild of Sommeliers, the Distinguished Service Award, and Market Watch leader from Marvin Shanken, who was editor of Wine Spectator magazine. He was, when he was in in that role, he was the first control state speaker in Pennsylvania as a control state at the Alcohol Beverage Control Association. So it's not as if Jonathan doesn't understand how it works. He gets it. He also is chairman-elect of the National Alcohol Beverage Control Association and understands the differences between the control approach, which is he is advocating leaving behind and moving to a license approach, which we think will provide better selection, more convenience, more reasonable prices, while still enhancing the law enforcement and regulatory and education aspects of this. But this man is also a civic leader. Boys and Girls Club of America Youth Advocate Award, Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition, Pink Ribbon Award, former chairman under Governor Ridge of the Pennsylvania Board of Law Examiners and the Disciplinary Board for Lawyers, a very, very accomplished individual. Vocational Service Award from the Rotary Club. This is the kind of leader that we are honored to have supporting our proposal in House Bill 11 and privatization efforts. I do want to just point this out. There are critics. I think this bill is going to create significant new jobs in many, many sectors as we move forward. But I want you to know that Jonathan had a great rapport as leader with many folks, and he was actually the speaker at the 36th annual AFL-CIO convention, and he was recipient of the United Food and Commercial Workers honor for their annual golf classic. This is a well-rounded individual, a man of character, a great leader, and we're really honored to have him here today. Some other people that I wanted to just point out in the audience: Larry Gerhardt, John Myro, Steve Rukavina, amongst others. Thank you for being a part of this. We really appreciate it. But I'd like to turn it over now to my good friend and really colleague in this movement, Jonathan Newman.
I want to thank Leader Turzai for those beautiful comments and for his leadership on this issue, and for the other representatives who have shown leadership and are standing toe-to-toe with Mike to fight a great battle. By the way, as an aside, did anybody get to see John Mayberry get that 2-home-run shot against the Colorado Rockies last night?
Yes, right.
With 2 outs and 2 strikes. Phillies fan, so I had to throw that in to start it anyway today. But I am privileged to be here today. And this is a historic moment in the city of Philadelphia. I sit on the Greater Philadelphia Tourism Marketing Corporation, and the city of Philadelphia is a big part of the Newman family and my tradition. And to be announcing privatization for about the first time in a great city's history is an incredible step in the right direction, and I'm really proud to be here today. I'm also a student of Prohibition, and I know Pennsylvania has a very rich tradition dating back before the 1850s to temperance. And the governor who, when the 21st Amendment came in, Governor Gifford Pinchot came in, he was a dry and his wife was a dry, and they wanted to leave a tradition in Pennsylvania of a legacy that he would have for a long time. And Gifford Pinchot was quite successful, because here we are in 2011 in a sophisticated city like Philadelphia, in a great state like Pennsylvania, with great cities like Pittsburgh, and we still have a control monopoly where consumers pay very high prices and limited selection. And having run the PLCB for almost 5 years, and being on the board for 7.5 years, and being in private industry for almost 5 years now, I see the way wine and spirits are sold throughout Pennsylvania, and I see what it's like in the rest of the country. And we know that Pennsylvanians, over 2/3 of Pennsylvanians, support privatization. And I think the numbers are even more dramatic if you're talking about people that just enjoy alcohol beverages. But the numbers are huge, and the time has come. And I think that you have a leader in the legislature who's got the political will to really push this agenda. You have a governor who supports privatization. I think the stars are perfectly aligned. And you know what's beautiful about this issue? It brings liberals and conservatives together. It brings Republicans and Democrats together. It brings together people who care about free industry and people who want to purchase their wine and spirits in big, beautiful stores, want good prices. And we don't want to be bootleggers. We don't want to have to be criminals of going into Delaware and New Jersey and purchasing product illegally. We want to keep our business in Pennsylvania. So this is about making Pennsylvania more competitive. And people will come back when they have great prices, great product selection, big, beautiful stores, and knowledgeable store employees. And that's what happens in private industry. You know, the Auditor General yesterday came out with a report, and he showed about the waste and the mismanagement in the PLCB. Really, most recently, $66 million in enterprise resource planning system, inventory waste, unbelievable breakdown of inventory control management. And you know what? This is a function that should be left to private industry. And if people are going to serve minors and there's going to be problems, then you clamp down on people in private industry. But it's not really true, and it's one of the false rumors that because you have a control state that there's less DUIs and there's less underage drinking. That's more a product of law enforcement. And I can tell you, Tom Corbett, as a former Attorney General, as a former prosecutor, when laws come into place, they're going to be very strong in private industry to make sure this is done in a really positive manner and benefits all Pennsylvanians. So I've worn the hat of PLCB chairman for 4.5 years. I've been in private industry for a long time. I know really and have a vision of what Pennsylvania can be like for the future. I think that there's something inherently wrong of going to a state-controlled store that has uniformity of selection, some of the highest taxes in the country, a flood tax from the Johnstown flood in the 1930s that we're still paying for to this day. And I think we're going to find that under Mike's plan that he's developed, that it's on the conservative side. I've looked at the legislation. I think it's a great piece of legislation. I think Pennsylvanians, especially in the 5-county area that go to New Jersey and Delaware, even people in South Central Pennsylvania that go to Maryland for lower prices, I think there's a tremendous amount of border bleed, and we're going to make up a lot of those numbers. So I think for many reasons, it's the right thing to do. I believe in private enterprise. This is not a core government function. I think the PLCB should be brought back to a regulatory role. And I think that Mike and the other leaders in the House have the political willpower to get this done. And I think you're going to see when this comes out of the House of Representatives that the Senate, which is very pro-business, is going to get excited about this bill. And I think that we really have an exciting year in the future where 3 governors have failed: Thornburg, Schaap, and Tom Ridge. And I think under this administration and under the leadership in the legislature, we're going to have something that's never been done before, because you're going up against a lot of history. The 21st Amendment in 1933, it's been very tough to overcome this. But I think because of budgetary reasons and because of the pro-business environment, that this is the year that change is going to happen. And Philadelphia is a revolutionary city, and if we can get the excitement in the 5-county area and people reach out to their legislators, that's when privatization is finally going to happen. And I'd be glad to take questions.
John, net, do you think that there is going to be a loss of money or a growth of money when you privatize?
I think not only is there going to be a one-time infusion of cash, but the way the system can be set up with a recurring revenue stream for the licensees that are paying for the licenses, of the gallonage tax, of the additional money that's going to come in. Go to Total Wine in Claymont, Delaware, which is a store that probably does about $60 million in sales, and it's about 3/4 Pennsylvania license plates in that store. Go to Canals in Pennsauken and see the business that's there. People in the 5-county Philadelphia area shop out of state, and the incremental business that we can do in this area, I believe, can be up to 25% higher just in the first year or two. And when you add in more competitive prices and big, beautiful stores, and this is going to open it up to private industry. And I'm really compassionate, and It's an issue that there's going to be some union jobs at risk, but I just don't think for that reason alone we shouldn't do privatization. I think there are many great employees in the PLCB system, and I know a lot of those people on a personal basis, and I believe many of them will get picked up in private industry. And I also think instead of 4,000 jobs in a state system where you only have about 600 stores, when you have 1,200 licenses, you're going to increase jobs, you're going to have more product being sold, and you're going to keep the business in Pennsylvania. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming here today. And Mike?
Jonathan, it's an honor, and Jonathan will be available for questions as we finalize the event, but I'd like to turn it over to the number 2 on the bill, my co-sponsor, Tom Killian from Delaware County. Tom.
Thank you, Mike. I'll stick with the baseball team, go forth and back clean up here. I want to congratulate Representative Torzai for his leadership in this effort, finally yanking us out of where we started in 1933 with the LCB and bringing privatization. But House Bill 11 is really about our consumers. You heard Johnson say better selection, lower prices, and convenience, and that's going to bring our Pennsylvanians home. I live in western Delaware County. I'm 6 miles from the Delaware border, about 9.5 miles from Total Wines. And I can tell you, my neighbors do not shop at our state stores. My neighbors shop in Delaware at Total Wines. And they do it for those reasons: better selection, better prices, and convenience. I believe that with this bill, Mike's bill, House Bill 11, we can not only bring the Pennsylvanians home, but increase revenues. You heard about the upfront money. You know, there's talk we could maybe put that in infrastructure. That's jobs. You heard about the additional stores we're having. There are even more jobs. And when you bring back the 25–30% border bleed, even more jobs. So it's about consumers. It's about jobs. It's the right time, as Jonathan said. I think, as he said, the stars are aligning. We can get it done this session. We can privatize this system, modernize this system, and make it better for all Pennsylvanians. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Any further follow-up questions? If not, we'll be glad to speak to you individually. Thank you very, very much, and thank you. Yes, sir, please.
Why do you suppose, despite being supportive of privatization, Governor Corbett's been somewhat lukewarm to your proposal?
Oh, I would disagree with that characterization. Governor Corbett, you know, he's a very, very thoughtful, disciplined leader. As we've seen over the first 6 months, he likes to let the democratic process in the legislature actually work, and then he works a lot behind the scenes. As you know, his team is actually doing a study with respect to what they believe the upfront finances will be brought in from the privatization effort. And in addition, they'll be looking at what they believe the annual revenue streams will be. The other thing is the governor has a privatization task force, which is going to look into areas beyond the sale of wine and spirits where we might be able to say, hey, look, can the private sector do this better than the public sector? So I wouldn't, it's just his style of leadership. I know Tom well. He is from the other side of the state near my own district, and he's a quiet leader. And but I thought he had a very, very successful first 6 months with the work of the legislature, and I think we're going to continue to move forward.
So you ultimately believe that the governor will come on board with the legislation?
Oh, there's no doubt the governor's on board with privatization, and look, you have to have a template, and I think this is a very, very positive proposal, and we're going to have hearings. We'll move it out of the House, and we'll continue the process going forward.
Do you have a reaction to the Auditor General's report on the waste?
I think the Auditor General's report is dead on. I mean, look at the kiosk fiasco and this computer system fiasco. I think, look, sales have increased, but revenues, sales have increased, but revenues over expenditures has been completely flatlined. I mean, why? Because in the end, if you don't have somebody like Jonathan Newman, who's a watchdog, just pushing it and looking to be more private sector-like, you're going to have an entity that makes decisions not based on the consumer, but based on its own entrenched bureaucracy. It's not that they're bad people, it's just how government just doesn't get it right. The private sector understands how to get product and service to the market in a more efficient, fair way. And I do believe like Representative Killian said, I think there's going to, and Jonathan said, there's going to be significant jobs. Even on the wholesale side, just think about warehousing and transportation. There's an infrastructure in place, and now there's going to be an expansion of that. And many of those are union jobs. We think it's going to be a win-win-win for everybody. Anybody else? And if not, please make sure you speak to Jonathan here afterwards. And Jonathan, thank you very, very much. You know, he's had significant input into what our product is, and Larry Gerhardt, who's out here, also did. We really wanted to talk to people who knew the industry and how to best put a model forward. We are open to many ideas. That's why Chairman Taylor is holding hearings. You know, there's no single best model, but I think this is a very, very good model, and it's going to ultimately become law. We're quite confident. Thank you.